Who among us has not dreamed of living longer and staying healthy? Since ancient times, people have been looking for ways to defeat old age, but until recently, all attempts were unsuccessful. One way to understand this mystery may lie through the study of natural mutations in wildlife. Imagine an animal that lives not 2-3 years, as most of its relatives, but up to 40 years, without senility or cancer. For a human at its size, that would mean living 600 years. But what's even more amazing is that the naked digger is perhaps the true master of time deception. It hardly ages at all by biological standards. For example, even at the age of 20, it is still as active and cheerful as it was in its youth. What makes it so special? Apparently, it's a way of life. Naked diggers live in East Africa in the desert. There, the stony, sandy soils are firmly packed. In them, a system of narrow and very long branching passages. The animals do not come to the surface and are always digging new passages with their teeth in search of juicy rhizomes. Their skin is devoid of pain receptors, Nobel Prize 2021. It gathers in folds. Their skin is both very stretchy and very tough, and they don't get tumors in their skin. 10 years ago, the realization emerged that the ground squirrel has one big feature, literally huge. They found giant-sized hyaluronic acid molecules in its skin and then in various organs. Scientists from the University of Rochester published a study in the journal Nature confirming that naked shrews have a unique molecular mechanism that makes them virtually immune to cancer. This mechanism is related to the structure of hyaluronic acid, molecules that play a key role in regulating cell growth. These molecules are 100 times longer than the normal hyaluronic acid chains found in other mammals. This begs the question, if shrews have this resistance to cancer, could it be related to their longevity? In fact, slow aging in these creatures is another mystery. A 2018 study from the University of California solves the mystery. The cells of the naked shrew age more slowly thanks to a number of unique proteins that are absent in other rodents. These proteins likely provide it with additional protection against the aging process. But an equally interesting feature is its adaptation to extreme conditions. Living in conditions of extreme lack of oxygen, diggers have evolved unique ways to cope with hypoxia. A 2020 study published in Science found that the naked mole digger has an increased expression of genes that help it survive in such conditions. The most exciting part of research in biology is trying to put your knowledge into practice. Scientists have decided to transfer this elixir of youth of the naked shrew to mice. The latest summer issue of Nature has an article in which scientists from the University of Rochester talk about the new experiment. It took 10 years. That's how long it took to obtain, grow, age, and study 100 mice with 48,000 plus its one genes running throughout their bodies. They added a single gene transcribed from the genome of a naked shrew. Now let's talk about the key component of this magic formula: giant chains of hyaluronic acid. Hyaluronic acid is a polysaccharide that is present in the human body. It is involved in the regulation of cell growth, as well as provides moisturization and elasticity of the skin. But in the body of the naked mole, this molecule has a special giant form, which, according to scientists, and contributes to its unique resistance to cancer. To introduce this secret of longevity into mice, scientists performed a series of genetic manipulations, introducing the gene responsible for the production of hyaluronic acid in the shrew into the genome of mice. This process, known as gene insertion, allows a foreign gene to be added to the DNA of the recipient organism. The next step was to measure levels of the enzyme Has, hyaluronic acid synthase. This is the same machine that is built into the surface of cells to produce hyaluronic acid. To make sure the introduced gene was working properly, the researchers measured hyaluronic acid concentrations in the tissues of the mice. Was their average lifespan altered? Did their health become more resistant to various diseases? Let's start with where the LED molecules went. The research found giant chains of hyaluronic acid in various tissues of the modified individuals, indicating that the new gene had not just taken root, but was actively functioning in the body. After such a discovery, it is natural to wonder, how did it affect the genome of these animals? It turned out that the methylation of certain genes was reduced in the earth mice. Methylation is the process by which a methyl group is attached to cytosine nucleotides in DNA. This can lead to a decrease in the activity of genes that are responsible for the development of age-related diseases, including those responsible for the production of inflammatory factors and cell damage. However, the most startling discoveries awaited the researchers outside of the PCR machines and microscopes. Comparing the overall health of the modified individuals with the normal ones, it became obvious. The modification prolonged their lives and gave them better health, increased resistance to certain forms of cancer, certain inflammatory diseases, and degenerative diseases of the nervous system. And finally, some aging processes, such as liver aging or osteoporosis in females, were slower in the Earth-modified mice. This discovery emphasizes the grand impact of hyaluronic acid giant chains on the overall aging pattern of the body. Can these findings be applied to humans? Now, with the data available on Earth-moped mice, this question becomes even more relevant. To date, there have been many successful experiments with gene editing, including those using CRISPR-Cas9 technology. This raises many ethical questions. However, the fact remains that in 2017, experiments on gene editing of human embryos were already conducted in China. Scientist He Jiankui said that he changed the CCR5 gene, which makes people less susceptible to HIV. The possibilities of applying the research to medicine are tantalizing in their potential. If improved health and extended life in mice has become a reality thanks to hyaluronic acid giant chains, why not consider their potential application in humans? Increasingly, scientists are turning to genetic engineering to find solutions to diseases such as Alzheimer's or cancer. But that's not all. In 2018, in the scientific journal Nature, scientists revealed that hyaluronic acid helps stop the processes that cause inflammation in our bodies. Similar results were reported in 2019. In Cell, they wrote that this acid protects cells from the harm that free radicals can bring. It may seem like this is all a long way from our lives, but actually it's not. Hyaluronic acid is already helping people with joint pain. And it's also being discovered in 2019 that it can protect our lungs from the harm that dirty air can cause. Still, understanding aging is not an easy task. According to many scientists, aging is not a single separate process. On the contrary, it is a whole set of different but interrelated mechanisms working together, and that is what makes it so difficult to study and possibly correct. David Sinclair, a professor at Harvard Medical School and one of the leading experts in the biology of aging, supports this view as well. His research examines various aspects of aging, including oxidative stress, telomeres, the ends of chromosomes that shorten with age, and even the effects of the microbiome, the totality of all microorganisms living in the body. Sinclair and his colleagues' research shows that aging is a dynamic process involving genes, lifestyle, environment, and even our own microorganisms. He and other scientists are working to figure out how these various factors interact with each other and how they can be influenced to slow aging or even partially reverse it. So when we consider the potential applications of hyaluronic acid or other molecules in anti-aging, it's important to realize that this is just one of many pieces of the puzzle. Like assembling a complex jigsaw puzzle, each piece found and put in its place brings us closer to the big picture. Gene modification has great potential to improve human health and quality of life. In the future, it may help us stop aging and related diseases, leading to longer life expectancy and better health for people around the world. Of course, gene modification is not a panacea, and it will not solve all the problems associated with aging. However, it can be an important tool in the fight against aging and age-related diseases.